What's up? Welcome to another video, and in this video I'm going to show you how I've created one of my best Afro beats yet. So I've tried to switch it up, create something unique and add some elements which are not that common. And in this video I'm also going to show you an amazing product from Soundtheory, which is called Gullfoss. And before I'm going to show you how to use the plugin, I just want to mention this plugin will be on sale when it comes to Black Friday. So from Monday 30 November until Thursday 30 November, you can get a 40% discount on this plugin, and you don't need any coupons or code. This will be automatically applied on the checkout. So there will be a link in the description, so if you're interested, make sure to check it out. But let's get started with the tutorial. So for this beat, I've started off with a guitar. And when it comes to picking a guitar when you're creating an Afrobeat, I think this has to be a very organic and natural sounding guitar. So I'm using Contact 7, I'm using the picked acoustic, the melody version on open, using the sound preset, which is Fat Ribbon. And I'm going to create this beat in G minor. So now let's start off by building the guitar melody. So I'm starting off at this D sharp. So simple root notes. That's it. And right now we're going to add notes on top. So we could add this G, A, and D. We want to make it a little more interesting, so we're adjusting this from G5 to G6. That's it. And we could simply copy this over. Later on, we're going to extend this chord progression, but right now we have to pick the next main chord, and we're using this G. Then we have to make sure it fits the scale. So first we adjust the root note, so this should sound fine. So this is the chord progression right now. Very R&B inspired. So now we're going to move around with the position of the notes to add a rhythm to this chord progression. Something like this, as you can see. So you could, for example, play around with the rhythm. So it could be something like this. But I prefer it this way, a little bit more straightforward. They're adding something like this. That sounds really cool. And then we're going to, again, adjust this one until we create something like this. And then we're going to create something which is a little bit similar to this. And then we're going to use these notes right here, just to make it interesting. Don't make it too complicated. So right now it sounds like this. Very trap beat inspired. I think when you add some trap drums at 150 BPM, it would also sound fine, but I think it sounds really cool. Then of course you want to make sure you play around with the velocities to humanize this melody. You make sure you tweak the notes, add some more details, and in the end it sounds like this. Strumize it. So by adjusting the velocity, you add details and accents to a beat like this. And especially when you're using nylon guitars, and most plugins support this, it's very easy to tweak this. And it doesn't sound like a very quantized guitar, because that's something you typically want to avoid. And because the guitar is the main melody for this beat, I'm going to show you what effects I've applied. So first you want to make sure you remove the frequencies you don't want. So I've used a low cut from 100 Hz, and then I've used a bell to reduce some of the mid frequencies, and this leaves some more room when it comes to adding more elements. So after removing the frequencies, I'm going to use Gullfoss, and Gullfoss is a very easy tool to use. So we have just a couple of parameters. So we have recover, tame, bias, and brighten, and we could also boost the signal or reduce it. We could also use this EQ to sidechain a signal, and we have the input and output. So let me show you how to use it. So we talk about recover is basically how much of this EQ is applied to the signal. So on the guitar I've added around 100%. And then we want to say tame. So how much of the signal do we have to adjust basically? We could over tame it. You can see there is a lot happening. So just applying around 40%. Then I want to remove some high frequency. So I'm adjusting brighten to -69. Could also add some high frequencies. So right now it sounds very soft. And with the bias, we could also change this to -100 to +100. But I want to reduce the peaks in this signal, so we have to turn it up to +31%. And that's basically it. So now we've softened the signal and basically balanced the signal in a very easy way. Then we're adding some basic effects using the RC20, using the Vinyl 2. And that's basically it when it comes to adding the effects to the guitar. So next up, I've added an orchestral element and I'm using some strings. So I'm using the Violence 1 Essential from Contact. And I want to add a short violin. So I've added the articulation to staccato. So right now it sounds very short and sharp. So right now let's add a simple top melody which is following the root note. So first draw in the root notes. That's it, but we want to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm just picking the notes within the scale which are available. So like this. And then I want to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm adjusting this to F. And then we're going to create something very similar at the exact same position right here. Let's adjust this one. Let's have a listen. Very simple layer, but I think a very effective layer. And then let's adjust the velocity right here. So it sounds like it's transitioning to the next note in this case, which is this G sharp, like this. Just a tiny detail, but it makes a huge difference in the end. So now let's add a vocal sample. So I've used Arcade, and I've used the Don't Give Up sample bank, and I've removed all the high frequencies, so it sounds very pushed to the background. And then I've added a concert hall reverb with the mix on 50%. Then I found this sample. And I've added it right here, so it fits the rhythm of the guitar sample. Oh. So as you can hear, I've pushed it to the background to make sure the guitar is still the main element. So now it's time for the drums. I'm going to show you how to create that typical Afrobeat triplet rhythm. So I've added this rim and then I've pitched it down to B. So it contains some more high frequencies and then I'm adding it at B. So let's have a listen. Very simple as you can hear, but when I'm adding the drums, most of the cases I'm creating the main rhythm and then I'm adding a shaker loop. So let's add the shaker loop. Very easy to apply to this beat. And then let's just copy this main rhythm and we're gonna use a second rim. So this is a very bell sounding percussion, this one. And I'm gonna paste it right here. Right here, that's it. And of course we want to randomize the velocity. So basically apply this to all your drums. Alright, now let's add the kick drum. So I'm going to use this kick. That's it, very simple rhythm. Now we're adding some percussion which contains some more reverb. Very repetitive percussion, but we're going to extend this loop even more. So for example, by adding this metal sounding percussion, this one. When we layer it with all the other elements, it just adds a lot of rhythm to the drum loop. Then we add another shaker. Then we add some more percussions and an impact clap. That's it when it comes to adding all the drums, and now we're gonna add some more elements which contain more low frequencies. So first I started off with a bass guitar. And I've used a bass guitar from Contact 7, Scarby pre-bass. A very realistic sounding bass. And right now I'm gonna drum the bass line which is following the root notes. That's it, sounds very cool. A very organic sounding bass, that's exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to creating those beats. And right now I'm going to use the log drum to create something unique. So I've used log drum 8, also from the African Producer bundle, which contains some ready to use presets. This is a log drum which contains a little bit more of a decay. So let's draw it in. So that's it, copy it over. So that's the main rhythm for this log drum. then adjust this one so it fits the bass line. And then let's play around with the pitch of some of the log drum notes. So something like this. Oh. That goes perfect together, and without making it too repetitive when it comes to the guitar bass line, adding a log drum fills up all the low frequencies. So it's an element which you can very easily add to those types of beats. So just be creative. So then let's move on to the final element, which is this bio bass from Kepler, which is a new plugin in FL Studio 21. Sounds really cool, but I basically wanted to duplicate this one. So it sounds like this. But I think the first note is just too loud. When it comes to this plugin, I'm not able to adjust the velocity. So I've basically cloned this bass, copy it over, paste it into this one, reduce the volume until I liked it, and then added this one right here. So now it sounds like this. So another element which is just a detail, but I think it sounds really dope. And of course, add some swing to the beat, around 15 to 20%. So now I'm going to show you how to arrange this beat, and I'm going to show you how to use Gullfoss to, in the end, create this clean mix. So very easy mixing techniques. So the first step is to link all your drums to the mixer, and then link all these drums to a drum bus. So for example, all those drums, so I've linked them to this drum bus, so I could make it a little bit more clear by changing the color. So those are all the drums. So when it comes to the drums, I don't want any low frequencies below 50 Hertz. Then I'm reducing some of those frequencies. I'm reducing some of the high frequencies. And then I've used Gullfoss to again balance the output. So I'm going to show you how to apply this to your drum bus. So I'm adjusting this to around 100 Hertz. And then I'm going to tame the signal a little bit. So until I hit around -3 or +3 dB, that's it. And then I want to make sure I'm not adding too much high frequency. So I'm dragging this one down. So then I'm going to flatten the sound. So I'm going to push this one up. So I want to make sure the levels are around 0 dB. That's it. I think this sounds perfect. So as you can hear, you add some details, but the signal sounds very consistent. And that's exactly what you're looking for when you're in the end mixing the drums. And the same applies to your melodies and the low frequencies. I've also added Gullfoss to the bass to basically also level the signal. Sounds very consistent. Doesn't matter which note it plays, it just sounds very consistent, and I think this is what it's all about when it comes to adding this plugin. So I've also created the melodies bus for the vocal, guitar and the strings, and I've also added Gullfoss to balance the signal. So I've just added a little bit of tame right here, just a detail to make sure it sounds balanced. And for this beat in the end, I've added some automation, added some drum rolls from the African producer bundle, and that's basically it. So I hope you enjoyed it, and let's listen to the final result. Still really enjoy listening to the guitar. Drums coming in. Building up. You can hear the drums, which I've added some reverb to in the background. Add a lot of dynamics to the drums. So groovy. Log drum fits very well. And the simple saw bass. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed showing you how to create this beat. Also make sure to check out Gullfoss. There is a free trial and you can use this plugin for 2 weeks for free. Just apply it to your mixes and sounds and just see the difference. It's really hard to explain because it's a very complicated plugin, but I'm definitely gonna use it in my future tutorials. And that's it. I hope you have a great day, create some awesome beats, and see you in one of my next tutorials.